Good morning, everyone. How is everyone today?
We are great.
Yeah,
Good.
good morning. Great.
Wonderful.
Good morning to you too. Very excited. We have a guest speaker today that we are thrilled to have with us, Bob Dimicco with Reveal AI, and can't wait to hear what he has to share with us. So I'll go ahead and jump in because I know that everyone is probably going to want to hear and capture everything he has to share with us today.
Yeah, I'm
And
just
Ray, I
going to
think
say, yeah, I just wanted to say one thing is that, I've known Bob for a long time, and Bob was one of the leaders at Cisco when I was a HR manager. And I have to say that Bob was one of the nicest and gracious leaders I ever worked with at Cisco. I always remember him very fondly because the team that he came into, at least in my mind, they were a really tough team. They were probably one of the toughest teams I ever worked with at Cisco. And Bob came in from the outside with a bunch of really entrenched leaders, and he was always super friendly and super approachable and just a really nice person to deal with. And I never forgot that. And I just wanted to tell Bob that, I always think of him when I think of that time, and I think of him very fondly just because of his approach and style. So I wanted to let you know that.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. And I'll do credit to my parents and my grandparents who made sure that lessons were learned at age 11 or 14 or whatever that carried forward. But thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate it.
Well, they stuck. So you want to tell us a little bit about Reveal AI, and then Ray will jump in with a question and give us a little bit of level set on what Reveal AI is doing and the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So myself and the other founders, we came out of Stealth about a year ago, and we've been working with organizations, large and small, primarily starting with HR leaders, to essentially give them another tool in their arsenal to help really understand, what employees are thinking, what they're feeling, what ideas and problems what ideas they have, what problems they're trying to solve. And essentially, we've got a software product that uses artificial intelligence that, essentially helps an HR leader and their business partner simply be more productive in a complement to traditional surveys and human one-on-one interviews and focus groups. So our product's been used over 20,000 times now. With organizations that range from retailers to tech companies to healthcare to the federal government, and just super excited that recently I reached back out to Jason and found out all the amazing things that Thrive HR was doing, and said, my goodness, 1 + 1 = 3. We definitely have to partner, and boom, here we are.
Oh, that's great. That's
It's all
great.
because of Heather. She's pulled it all together for us.
we're a good
Yeah. Well,
team.
well, we appreciate your being on, Bob. Yeah. One of the questions maybe that I have is just around, kind of what's the problem that Reveal AI has been solving for its customers, and maybe you can kind of give us some examples.
Sure. Well, the major problem that we're solving, Ray and Heather and Jason, is that HR teams tell us that they don't have a scalable way to get beyond the traditional survey. The traditional survey is wonderful for longitudinal information. It's wonderful for getting ratings and things like that. It's as a tool, it's just somewhat limited in the sense that it's difficult to get to the why. And thus, most organizations do some sort of a focus group or a human interview, but those don't really scale. I mean, it takes a lot of time to do interviews, and then, my goodness, there's so much time to, kind of analyze the feedback and the responses. And so the genesis of Reveal is literally saying, how could we take software and AI and create an easy to use tool for HR leaders so that they could get to the why, and they could also, help people to really be heard in their own words. And that's what we've gotten in terms of feedback from HR leaders that have used this. Number one, it helped them simply be more productive. It helped them with another tool in their toolbox, if you will. And number two, the feedback we've gotten from employees that have taken the campaigns is that it felt modern, it felt intuitive, it really made them feel heard in ways that other tools and mediums could not. And so that's one of the HR leaders called Reveal a universal listening tool, where if you have a different situation, different problem you're trying to solve, you simply change the questions in the interview, and it changes the nature of the tool. The tool itself, essentially, it is conversational AI that takes maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes of interactive questions for a person to complete on their smartphone or on their desktop. And then we've got some AI and analysis algorithms in the background that do all this, clustering and classifying of similar responses, and then puts it into a nice dashboard so that, a user in the HR team can dynamically, find new information, pull the actions out of it, so that they and their business partner can really, in a matter of weeks, turn this into next steps, and go back to their, employees that took it, and said, hey, here's what you told us, here's what we understood, here's what we're doing about it. And so that's just, kind of fantastic, and how people have said, here's our problem, this is a solution we didn't have before, and just giving us some wonderful feedback.
Do you have any use cases that you could share with us that you feel you could talk about?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. So, some of the use cases we've done over the last 12 months have been, typically an HR leader and their business partner will have a challenge they're trying to tackle, a problem they're trying to solve. Maybe they've done a employee satisfaction survey or an employee kind of pulse survey, and they want to dive deeper into something as kind of their next step. That's where Reveal really comes into play. Some of the use cases, again, over the last 12 months, we've done compensation program redesign, reward and recognition program redesign, understanding how employees' perspective on equity program. We've done a couple of DEI inclusion campaigns to really, get feedback of people that are in these employee resource groups. We've done one on acquisition integration, where the CEO really wanted to understand what parts of the acquisition were working well and why, and what parts could be improved and why. We've done a number on what we call new leader success or executive onboarding, where you've got a new leader. I remember one was with a CIO, another was with a director of sales. And, the first 90 days is super important for a new leader to come in and really make huge impact. And so, they've used our tool to understand from their stakeholders, internal or external, kind of, the lay of the land and, what some of their priorities should be. Some of the other ones are, simply helping an organization that just did an employee survey with some open-ended questions. And those open-ended questions, may take a long time to process and kind of sort through manually. You can literally put them into our system. Our system will process them, and then, we'll put the key items on our dashboard. And so that's helped a couple of companies say, hey, wow, this is great, because we really didn't have a tool that could use that before. So those are some of the, ones that come to mind, where HR leaders have said, wow, this really helped us be more productive, because otherwise we probably would have had to have done, a bunch of one-on-one interviews, and it just would have taken time and just been very labor intensive.
And Bob, maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of what got you thinking about this as a as a product that was needed in the market.
Sure, it's a great question, Ray. So the origin story here goes back to a project with the Air Force. This was during COVID. The Air Force was looking to get a bunch of information, problems, challenges, solutions from some of their vendors who were working with them on some specific innovation. They were going to have a conference, but of course the conference couldn't take place because of COVID. And so they were working with our team, and kind of what came up was, is there a way to basically create a really short interview, 4 or 5 questions, that could be done with software, And then, the information from these questions, the interviews and the responses analyzed to really, help the Air Force figure out amongst these 400 companies that were going to come to the conference, what are the priorities the Air Force could take away. So the team put together, kind of a prototype tool. The project worked. The Air Force loved it. It's on our website as our origin story. And at the back end of that, the Air Force and NASA that had seen this, they said, hey, you guys have a product here. And we started kind of road testing the concept with people in qualitative research, quantitative research, HR leaders that we knew, marketing leaders that we knew. And they said, this actually fills a gap in the marketplace today in terms of, automating these short interviews and then analyzing the responses, without a lot of manual intervention and in an unbiased way. And so, then the team kind of put together a product. And as I mentioned, it's been used over 20,000 times now. We've analyzed well over 100,000 responses. We've definitely been gathering, new customers quarter by quarter in the last 12 months since we came out of stealth.
One of the things that it does that I really like when we did a review of the tool with you is that it can present to the person being interviewed the actual data or the actual program that it wants feedback on. I saw that, it gave us that. And that is really a time saver where you're talking to somebody about something and you don't have to say, hey, do you have the data in front of you? Or make sure you have your data in front of you to review or go look at it on the website. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think that's a really great feature.
Absolutely. I mean, again, if we think of how a human interview or a human focus group might unfold, oftentimes there's the prop. The prop might be a screenshot of something, or it might be a slide or a document in a Zoom meeting that someone puts up on the screen. Essentially, we do the same thing on our tool. What we call the interview bot has the ability to insert a document or an image or a short video. So how does that help someone? Well, I remember the first time we did it, we were working with a director of employee analytics. It was on getting feedback and ideas and perspectives on an equity program. And they wanted to put in the kind of annual statement that employees got to help them understand the equity that they had received from the company and what that equity was worth, what the balance was. And so part of the work was to really understand, in particular for employees, kind of frontline employees that were, getting some of the equity, if they really were able to internalize, kind of what this meant to them, because they had gotten some feedback that, this statement was really hard to understand. And so, just as you said, Jason, boom, couple questions, and then the image of the statement comes up. And people are able to give feedback on, hey, it's got 5 sections. Section 2 is really easy to understand, but oh my goodness, section 3, I don't really understand how it's worded, and the colors and things like that. The employee analytics director was just over the moon with the feedback, because she said, this would have taken me, probably 2 months to get from people in one-on-ones or small group meetings, and I was able to get it from over 300, 400 people in just a matter of a week. We also are working with a consulting firm right now that's going through a kind of reskilling and upskilling program. They're going to use Reveal on several hundred of their employees to get a perspective on how they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they like, what they don't like about this reskilling and upskilling program. And as a baseline, there's going to be an image that just defines, well, here's what we mean by upskilling and reskilling, and here's some examples, and so on and so forth. And in our testing, before we go into production with this interview bot, what we've found is that the employees who had that image available to them, they found the whole process of higher quality, and the responses that came through were of higher quality as well. So yeah, it's a great addition to the tool.
That's great. That's great. Now, Bob, maybe you could tell us a little bit about, the timing. If we wanted to do something like this, you get a signed agreement. Kind of what's the process for an organization to go, to actually getting the bot and the interviews, launched.
Sure. It's a great question, Ray. We typically go from start to finish within 30 calendar days, and the beginning really starts with either yourselves as the consulting firm that's working with the client, or sometimes we get brought into meetings. It's really listening to them and understanding what's the situation, what's the opportunity, what's the challenge, what's the problem. That's really going to form the basis for the theme of the campaign. And then what are the 4, 5, or 6 questions that you want to ask? Sometimes those are profile questions like, is an employee hourly, salary, where are they located, how long they've been with the company? And then we get to the open-ended questions. It usually takes a few days and a couple of meetings to get to that. And then our system builds the bot, gives them the link. They push the link out to their employees, however is most convenient to them. It could be in an app. It could be using their smartphones. It could be in an email link. And then usually the campaign is open for a matter of days, 2, 3, 4 days. And then the campaign closes and our system starts to analyze the responses. We do have some human QC involved, just to make sure that we're providing a high quality output. And it also helps us to train our AI models. And then, a few days after that, boom, the user and the consulting team has access to our analysis app, where they can go in and look at all the topics and subtopics and insights, and they literally have the ability to select and deselect certain profile information to see how that changes the perspective and changes the key information and the actionable intelligence that the employees provided. So usually start to finish 30 days or less.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. And we are a partner with Reveal AI. So if you want us to work with you on setting something up, we can do that. So I wanted to make sure that we're clear on that we're involved with Bob, and we can help an interested customer potentially utilize this service and this great tool. So talk to me about another thing that I really like about it. I really like the user-friendly process. And what I like about it is how the bot asks the questions in a very user-friendly way, or actually a very personalized way. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, Jason. And before I do, thank you so much for mentioning our partnership. I was so excited to work with you and your team again, partly because of the good relationship you had at Cisco, but also because you folks are the domain experts in HR. Your clients. We're experts in our product and the AI. We don't claim to be experts in HR nor any other functional domain. So it's super exciting for us to be able to partner with folks like yourselves who come from HR, understand HR, understand some of the challenges that this would help them overcome. So thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, one of the things that people, when the interview bot first became manifest, it was a little bit robotic. And part of how the technology has evolved, and part of how we've evolved what we call our algorithms, is to be more empathetic, to have the interview bot ask follow-up questions. The whole intent here is to create a human-like conversation to really help pull incredibly useful information and perspectives and ideas from the person who is interacting with the bot. We've had folks from age 20 up to age 80 use the bot in a given interview. And they've consistently said it felt intuitive, it was empathetic, it felt very modern, it was very much like a texting experience you might have with a friend or a family member or something like that. So one of the things that we can do with the interview bot is change its temperature, if you will. there are some organizations that want the interview bot to be tuned for a high level of conversationality and empathy. There are other organizations that want a little bit more of a straightforward, question, answer, question, answer. So part of our, dialogue with the customer and their, consulting partner is, what experience do you think will be best for your, your employees? And, Ray, back to your question about process, one of the things that our system creates is what we call a test bot. We give that test bot to the HR leader. They'll probably use it themselves, maybe with 5 or 6 or 7 other people, and then give us some feedback. Hey, it was a little bit too empathetic and chatty. Could you dial it back a little bit? And we will. And through that process, we'll get a temperature and also the language that really aligns with the culture of the organization. I'll give you an example. We've worked with a lot of retailers. Some retailers call their employees employees, some call them associates, some call them partners. Well, it's important to get that language into the question and into the interview bot, so it really is going to align with the culture of the organization. So that's something that's super important to us, and we spend a lot of time on.
Well, I really like that you do that, because we've spent a lot of time with clients getting terminology correct, because terminology right now is really important for clients in terms of how things are communicated to their employees. And Heather is the one that's been talking a lot about that on our team, where she's really able to clue in on this kind of language, this type of language is important to them, where it's inclusive and embraces all. And it's not, I know we've gotten some feedback where we used a couple of terms, and I think it was inadvertently where they were like, well, that's militaristic. And I'm like, well, we never really thought that, but that's a common term.
Yep,
so
exactly.
We've changed that. So the fact that your tool is sophisticated enough to do that is really important. So I really like that we can use that. So there's one other thing, and this is probably a question that you didn't prep for, but it's a topic that's been coming up a lot. And so I know on your team, I believe you have somebody that does some of your work, or who has a background in organizational development and change management. And one of the things that Thrive and Ray and Heather and I have been talking a lot about is that with the advent of AI, and at least this is our perspective on it, is that obviously it's really important to get the technology right on AI, but it's really important to get the change management and get your organization prepped for AI through good change management and through good discussions. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen by that? Because I think that that's really important right now as AI takes center stage.
Absolutely. We've got 2 organizations that we're working with right now. I mentioned the one that was going through a kind of reskilling, upskilling sort of thing. And so in both of these organizations, they've designed an interview bot that is going to ask questions about AI. How, how do the employees think, AI may, change or impact their job? What would they like to see in AI-based tools to help them be more productive? Are they concerned? Do they, is there a perspective on, threats that they see from AI? Have they used, Chat GPT, and what's their experience been? And the whole point is to, as you think, to your point, Jason, about change, and as you think about organizations kind of leaning into this change, these 2 have decided the very first thing they're going to do is get a baseline amongst their employees about what their employees are thinking about, what ideas they have, what problems they think they could solve with AI, what challenges might come up, what concerns they have about privacy, all those sorts of things. These organizations believe that the best first step they can take is to listen and learn from the hundreds or thousands of employees they have out there, who themselves have probably started to read about this, experience it. Maybe they've tried some tools for free, or again, they've tried Chat GPT, and they have a mix. They have a blend of concerns and ideas, and we could try this, and here's a way, our services could be improved for our clients or our customers or things like that. So in this case, we're going to use our AI-based listening tool to help these organizations learn and source ideas, challenges, etc., that the senior leadership teams can then take along with all of the other input they're getting and start to turn it into a strategy. Jason, this kind of reminds me of back when we were at Cisco, and the team I was with was focused kind of on the early days of cloud. And kind of the dichotomy between a data center on-prem versus using cloud services like, the early days of Salesforce or AWS or whatever it was. And some of the most brilliant CIOs and chief information security officers were saying, hey, this is going to change in ways we don't understand. Let's start really listening to our people who are experimenting with these services, but also recognize that there'll be some concerns about security and data privacy and things like that. The same sort of model is what the best leaders are going to lean into when it comes to AI, and how AI has the potential to change things and also create opportunities for productivity improvements that simply didn't exist a year ago.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I really, really love that, because that is going to be the cornerstone of making sure that AI is successful, and that we end up not having a backlash against AI in industry. And you're seeing that, I think, in various places where people are starting to push back against AI. So having a very detailed listening strategy, and then talking about that listening strategy and what you're going to do as an organization with AI, because at some point, people are going to be very worried about the threat of them losing their job. And so as that begins to become more of the forefront, I've talked a little bit about how I think that's going to impact organizations. So I'm really glad to hear that you're using that. And I think that there's obviously some companies that we're working with right now that we could really leverage that very, very, very well with. So,
and just to build on that, Jason, I mean, the HR teams that we've worked with that have used Reveal, there were a couple in the beginning that were kind of like, is this going to replace any of the folks on our team? And what they realized after their first project was this just helps them do more with the resources and the budget that they have. It just helps them, get to answers more quickly. It helps them be more productive. And after the first project, they realized, this is just another tool, and it's going to help us tremendously.
Yes, that is true. And I think that's super, super important. And that was the real life human of my wife, who didn't realize we were broadcasting, not the AI. So.
She was jealous. She wouldn't be on the call.
Yeah, we still have real humans that work with us. So
exactly.
Bob, is there anything that we haven't asked you that we should have asked you that you'd like to tell folks?
Well, just to reiterate, what we've heard from people is this is a universal listening tool. HR leaders have said this is precisely how we can collect the raw material, the verbatim input from employees, and then analyze it for action. This is the raw material we needed to understand how to improve, how to overcome challenges, and get to the why kind of underneath what some of the other tools are providing to them. So it's exciting, being of service to leaders who are, tackling some of the more challenging, complex problems, and, helping them and their teams, and helping them connect with employees in ways that they may not have been able to do before at the scale they really wanted to.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bob, people want to get a hold of you. How do they do that?
Actually, the best way is to reach out to you folks.
You're so nice. See, I told you he was nice.
as kind of the first step, because you folks know your clients. You know the context. And you also know when it's like, yep, let's grab Bob and the members of his team to get together for first meeting and scope out an opportunity to help them. So that's really the best thing they can do.
Okay, then I'll take advantage of that. If you'd like to reach out to us, it's Jason at Thrive HR Consulting. Oh, and there's the scroll down at the bottom. You're so
Yeah,
good,
exactly.
Heather. Okay,
Yeah.
Ray, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, just Ray, REY, at thrivehrconsulting.com.
And Heather, how do they get a hold of you?
Heather.Simmons, that's with 2 M's, at thrivehrconsulting.com.
All right, it's been so exciting.
Yes.
We love this product, and we're all over this product. So we have lots of exciting things and lots of exciting news to come with what we want to do with it. So thank you so much, Bob, for taking time. I know you're super busy, but we really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
You.
Ray, Heather, and Jason, I really appreciate you reaching out, and I'm really excited too about what we're building here, and can't wait to help your clients.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.